Well, hello. Look where I am. Look where we are today on Sunday. We are behind my herbal display. I hope everyone likes it. Hello to all of you. I'm going to start today by welcoming people. We can open up the group to have some basic questions. Somebody asked me if I could talk a little bit about these herbs. I will, but I don't want to waste too much time on it. This is a nice herb display. People had asked, does the light destroy herbs? Yes, light does destroy herbs. So if you're going to be doing a display like this, you want to make sure it's in a dark bottles. These herbs don't usually get used. It's more a display. If I do put them up here, you can see it's only, some of these are full, some are not full. It depends on how much herbs I'm making. I go through these really quickly. But you can see the bins over here to my left is where I actually keep the herbs. So say, for example, I get a large order for immune supportive tea. I can make, 100 bags. I just pull them out of the bins. I would use up this first, and then I would go to the bins and then refill partway until the next order. And I just do that because I like being around the herbs, the beauty of the herbs. It's something I've always dreamed about, having my own medicinary in my home, and now I do. So it will continue to expand. As I learn herbs, I add them to my repertoire, and I'm always learning herbs. So that answers that question. Welcome to everyone who took time on Sunday to come visit me here in beautiful Portlandia. Thank you also. Special shout out to Larry Girl, who is our moderator, and she doesn't get paid. She just does that because she's a nice person. So we thank her for that, and we're grateful that she's here. Okay, special shout out also to everybody who decided to show up. Thank you to SS, to Judy, Angela, Bruce, Eva, Lynn, Hansis, Grace's Glory, of course, is here, Christy Price, Eliza Bassett, Naomi Susan, I know Fillerin's here, Sarah Lesko, Marie Steams, Sandy. We'll be keeping track of everybody, making sure everybody's doing great as we go along. So before we get started with the remote views and all of the blitzes, we got a lot, so many questions. How's everybody doing? Does anybody have any questions for me that we didn't get to before we get started on today's blitzes? Or are we ready to just rock and roll? You can't hear anything? Can everybody hear me? Looks like my microphone's working. Anna Masita says she can't hear. How about now? Can you hear? Hello, everyone. Refresh, I can hear. Easy to hear, okay. No, it's worse. Oh, coming in loud and clear. Okay, so I think I didn't push the thing in enough. All right, so the first remotes people had asked me to take a look at had to do, of course, with our current president number 45. It's interesting when you meditate. As I had mentioned in yesterday's remote viewing, I think the reason why this technique and meditation in general can help us look at things objectively is because of what meditation does to the brain, to the limbic system. It calms us down and it eases us, these types of meditation techniques, so we can step back from a place of fear and really try to look at things objectively. We are able to look at the target, hopefully from an objective place without personal emotion attached to it. So I think that's a really important thing for readers to develop, is this ability to step out of yourself and look at things objectively. So people had asked about the Trump military morale. I've never felt like for a very long time, I felt that it started to decay. The thing with the military morale is that it went from the top down, in the sense that I felt that the enlisted people, the people that were lower ranks were more likely to support Trump. But as things began to crumble higher up in the military, it began to leak into the lower ranks, and I think that that's had a negative impact on Trump's reelection. Do I think that the Putin connection is going to be? Yeah, I think that they've known about it for a very long time. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do a quick prayer. And thank you, Dorian. Thank you, Ian. Thank you for the support of the channel. I do love my new home. All right, so we're going to start with a collective reading. A collective reading is just a message from Spirit for everybody who watches this video. At the time you watch the video, to the best of my ability, I'll try and get a message that hopefully all of us can hear that's going to help to empower us. But we're going to do a simple meditative prayer. If you're not a praying person, you can step this out. We accept everybody here. But I tend to find that a little bit of prayer helps me center. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll do a collective, and then we're going to do a blitz, and we'll be here until 12 noon. All right, let's get started. So I want to call on white light protection for myself and my viewers as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys so that we can make the best decisions for ourselves, for our families, for the planet, for the people we love, and even to help those we may have strife with. And together we say, Amen. Let's go in. Oh, thank you, Marvel. Thank you for being with me. Spirit, what is the message that people are supposed to receive in the collective today? Huh, interesting. All right, so it's interesting when you go into this meditation, the first thing I heard was actually, it's found in Patanjali, and it's also found in the Torah, and that is, or in the Tanakh. Peace be still and know that I am God is actually the first meditation I hear as I go into this. Is a sense of a desire that one rest in a place of peace and tranquility and not be disturbed. So I think that we all have to be also careful about what we're watching, what we're exposing ourselves to. If it's making us feel anxious or disempowered, then I think that we need to be mindful of that. Thank you, Ms. Sharon. The base of the matter. People in this group are entering into a state of scholarship. I think that it's interesting to get a hermit card as a base, because a hermit is capable of thinking for themselves. They're seeking the light, right? He's got a light, he's out in the cold, he's freezing. I think of this as a February card. Cloth shoes in the snow. I know there's like a some freezing thing that's moving in from the Arctic, evidently this weekend. So it's kind of interesting that we pulled a card I associate with February. But the reason I associate this card with February and with the winter time is because it's, oh, thank you, Courtney. It's because it's a time when people would shutter the windows. They couldn't plant. The ground was too hard. And so instead it was the time for schooling, reading, staying home and seeking knowledge and education. So in the winter, people went to school, and in the spring and summer, they worked on the harvest. So there is this feeling going forward that people are going to begin thinking for themselves and not in a group think, that there's more of a willingness for us to listen to one another out in a sense of respect. And that doesn't mean you hate somebody or you're attacking somebody. And this brings up a subject I want to talk about briefly, and that is how different people in the reading community believe in certain things that I don't believe in. It doesn't mean I don't like them and respect them as readers. I just simply don't agree with them. An example would be there's a popular belief in the reader community that we pick our parents, that we choose our incarnation. I personally don't believe that, and I believe that if you're giving a reading to someone who's a child abuse survivor, been in foster care, incest survivor, child abuse, etc., and you say to that individual that they picked it, or a Holocaust survivor, you tell a Holocaust survivor they picked it, or a victim of the massacre in Darfur, it's as if for the person with post-traumatic stress disorder, they are being re-molested or re-abused. And so even if a reader believes that to be true, I would strongly encourage them to be mindful that for the person you're reading for, they may feel disempowered, re-molested, and re-abused. So that's an argument, right? That's why I don't believe in that particular philosophy. It doesn't mean I don't like the readers. They're not friends of mine. We don't hang out. It's just we don't share the same philosophy. Hi, Ermi. So this is what I like about the hermit. The hermit is the ability not to be part of groupthink, being a flock, being part of a cult of celebrity, which we discourage strongly on the Oracle of Whimsy. You are all individuals, right? Think for yourselves. If somebody criticizes me and says, I don't really agree with you on that, then that's okay. We don't attack that person, because this is a salon environment where we encourage open, respectful dialogue. So hermit means that we're entering into a time collectively as a group where we're beginning to respect one another's differences and be able to listen to one another finally, because hermit is ultimately a truth seeker. Now, there's karma associated with this, because if you look at my card chart, if you're looking at the way I read a Celtic cross, I call it a Whimsy Celtic cross. I always have to do 12 instead of 10 cards. I always will pick two bases, and the 11th card is the karma we have to go through. And you can see the 8 of Wands as a strife card, and I think that makes sense, because these are times of strife, as they say. Times of strife. Let's go in. Oh dear. Where we are at right now, strong. Look at how wonderful the group is doing. We've got this nice individualism card, education, academia. A lot of you are probably pursuing higher education, higher knowledge. We've got a lot of strife to go through. Remember what I had said about modern Buddhism, and we don't say it's your fault if something bad happens to you in modern Buddhism. We just say life happens, and that sometimes in life, the nature of life on this planet is that there will be struggles, and that's simply the messy nature of life in this world. And so it doesn't surprise me at this time in our history we have a struggle card associated with it. But I love the fact that we got that card. And I love the fact that we're in a place of strength, people concentrating on their health, trying to eat right. I know many of you have chosen to be on a carbon neutral diet, which I think is great. So everybody is getting on the same page in terms of being responsible to the environment, one another, themselves, getting their houses in order. What crosses us? The great mediator. I love the fact that all of us are moving towards how can we communicate less violently and more inclusively, so that everyone is honored and everybody is respected. I call this card the King of Cups, the bridge over troubled water, because you can see that he's sitting solid and strong. He's not like a boat sinking in a Trump boat parade. I still think some of those boats were sabotaged, but I'll leave it to the boaters to explain it. But The waters are rocky, but he's stable. So he is the bridge of the troubled water. I like the fact that we are getting our houses in order. We're in a strong place, and we seem to be not in such a strong place in terms of getting our acts together, in terms of knowledge, that we seem to be able to carry other people over. I love that, because that goes in the beginning of these readings. When we started the collective, it was get your houses in order, get your houses in order, take care of yourself first, batten down the hatches. It's going to be a wild ride. Take care of yourself, take care of your values and principles. And then when you've got your hatches all taken care of, we can reach out and begin to start doing things like, if you want to volunteer for progressive causes, etc. But I like the fact that what they're saying is that we are now moving into the next phase of being the mediators, the helpers. Look at this, offering to help, Ace of Cups, because most people are inherently empathetic and good. And so I really feel that people are moving towards their good angels. We have an inversion, and it has to do with things changing or the gap stop. Things are changing. What was will no longer be. We have walked away from a past, and it's almost like this kind of had to happen because we had to bring the ugly negative up. The rotted roots needed to come out so that we could really make it can't be cosmetic dressing in terms of fixing the planet. It has to be something that's very deep. It has to be shadow work, and it talks about this ability to walk away from things that had become like a shadow for us. The ability to let things go that hold us back. If you're a trauma survivor, it can be beating yourself up. Subconscious belief that somehow you asked for it when you were a child. That's something that I see a lot with survivors. They go to the spiritual community because they are severely traumatized or have post-traumatic stress disorder, and then they get re-traumatized by philosophies or belief systems that are not necessarily going to be supportive of a survivor. Being able to let go of your past perceptions of yourself, that you are more than just your past. Regrets about how we may have handled the past. Feeling that we really could not have done any better in terms of our past. But also the ability to let the past go so that we can embrace something different and new. It's this fear of letting the past go, that the past that defined us for who we were and what we were is gone. And this fear and it's a fear of not knowing who we will become or who we truly are once we let go of all these false belief systems about ourselves. That would be the best way to interpret it. We pulled double aces as a group. You can see the Ace of Cups. We're moving towards peace, negotiation, the offer of love, weddings, stress, still trauma about the past. Ace of Swords is moving in, which is a victory card. So the fact that we have a strength card and a victory card, I think a lot of people are starting to feel like they're getting control of their situation. Regarding the political situation globally, you can see the sun in the 8th house. So yes, the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to see a lot of stuff coming out about the Trump administration. It just feels like a rotting corpse. It just feels like a repulsive information is going to be coming out, and that people are going to be completely disgusted. That's the best way for me to describe it. The hope and fear being changed to the devil because of the current situation, and the fighting back is the outcome, which, by the way, is the environmentalist card. It's the ability to fight back against multiple assaults. It's also the defender of the land, and he also protects the rivers and streams in this image. So we are learning to fight back, protect yourself emotionally from negativity. We got a warning here with the 2 of Swords in the 7th house. Be careful about what you're watching. If you feel like miserable after you watch something, if watching too much news is upsetting you, maybe block it out. Only learn what you need to learn, and the rest of the time focus on getting our houses in order and taking care of ourselves and how we can contribute to the good. That seems to be the message here. The hope and fears, the ethos of the nation, the higher truth. 10 of Swords, watch emotional exhaustion, feelings of being beaten down, feelings of being overwhelmed. If knowledge for you means watching obsessive amounts of TV that's upsetting you, that's the warning here. So stay in a strong, beautiful place. Continue to pursue knowledge. Continue to help people when you can. Continue to get our houses in order. But be mindful that the Ten of Swords is associated with opening up a can of worms that can create feelings of unhappiness. I have to watch this. I have to personally, I'm going through this as well, which is I will sit on YouTube and I will just watch hours and hours and hours of programming that gets me quite upset. So I think that is the warning there. All right. Did everybody enjoy their Blitz? I mean, their community reading? The stopgap. That card came inverted, which means it's over. The past is dead and the past had to end. And it's like a rotting corpse or a rotting root that we had to dig up. And it's repulsive, which is why nobody wanted to look at it. But we have to look at our dark side in this country so that we can begin to deal with it. And unfortunately, we're doing a lot of shadow work globally and in the group. All right, so we're now ready to do our blitzes. The first one was the relationship between Trump and the military, and people wanted to know if the military was responsible for the information that's been coming out. Also, if the military is aware of the Putin connection, Russian interference. But basically, we're going to do a throw on Trump's relationship with the military and the leaks coming out, etc. Sound good? That was the first question. Well, it was a couple questions, but we'll put it into one throw. So this is Trump's relationship with the military. Thank you, Larry girl. Trump's relationship with the military. Huh. There's a temperance card or a patience card here. This also has to do with sobriety. And then the karma they're going through is a Four of Wands, which is like a honeymoon phase that there's a negotiation or a desire to examine existing alliances and relationships. Huh, interesting. Yeah, relationships, old alliances. Look at this. Very interesting. This is like romance, alliances. The best way for me to describe this would be that I think that Trump had a kind of honeymoon in terms of his relationship with the military, the intelligence agencies. It's kind of like they let him pretty much do whatever he wanted to some extent. People were monitoring the situation. I think that's absolutely true. And you can see we're coming out of a Ten of Swords here. He's coming out of a Ten of Swords. This is him in relationship to the military, his relationship with the military, and his relationship with Putin. Has another lover. This can be an infidelity card. Politically, it could be that this is somebody who's two-timing. Maybe they have a relationship on the side while simultaneously giving flowers or trying to work with the military. So I think there's a feeling here when you look at these cards, like this is somebody that had the best of both worlds, that they were able to maneuver the situation. This is not somebody who is faithful or monogamous, but somebody who always thinks about his opportunities first. And so the only way that this relationship could work between the military and Trump is if the military made the decision that Trump's personal needs are more important than the security of the United States. That is the best way for me to interpret this. And so you can see coming out of Ten of Swords, and then the final outcome is Ten tower. It's not sustainable. Trump's policies are not sustainable. Trump's way of doing business is not sustainable, because the function of all of this is to help Donald Trump. And so consequently, people are not going to risk their lives, put themselves and their people that are under them in harm's way to help somebody else's career. You can also see a chariot card. He's possibly considering traveling in the next, I wonder if he's leaving the United States, might be going outside the United States. Looks like there's a crash coming. I think he's going to be exposed in the next 2 to 3 weeks. He has an opportunity to resign. Also, Mary Trump actually posted, do the right thing and face the music for once in your life and resign, because there is this feeling that in the next 2 to 3 weeks in September, just a bunch of stuff is going to be dumped. You can see he's headed towards the tower. I really think the party is over. Evidence being shown, or documents of information about relationships or a foundation, chariot movement, what's around him. They were foolish. They attempted to work with him. A Queen of Cups is the Queen of Hearts. They really tried. They thought that maybe they could educate this guy. But that's not how it works out. So yeah, I think that the military are I wouldn't call it sabotaging. It's more that it's a relationship that can't work. It's not a sustainable relationship. It's not like this is someone who really cares about the United States and is just doing things differently, which is what they thought they were dealing with. This is someone who really doesn't care about anybody but themselves. And unfortunately, that's leading them to the inevitable. Inevitably, that leads to the tower. It's not sustainable. All right, people wanted me to check on the future of Ghislaine Maxwell. So we're going to go ahead and look at the future of Ghislaine Maxwell. She's a very strange person. To get into her head is very strange. I wouldn't be surprised if he resigned. And his cousin thinks it's likely he will resign, and his former secretary thinks it's likely. Just because, look, he can't win. In the next 2 to 3 weeks, I think that 2 weeks at this point, I think that they are so committed to destroying any chance of him being reelected that you're going to see everything thrown at this president. And his numbers keep sinking. And in some cases, both have been sinking. But yeah, it's, if you're an anthropologist, this doesn't surprise you, because we know how communities thrive. They thrive with integration and mutual respect and everybody using their skills to help one another. This is not how community gets strong. This is how communities collapse. So it doesn't surprise me that this happens. So, all right, let's look at Ghislaine Maxwell. The future of Ghislaine Maxwell and that investigation in general, we'll take a look at. I love blitzes. I think she's lost support. The first thing I see is the possibility that she lost the support and the protection she thought she had. That's the best way for me to describe what I'm seeing with Ghislaine Maxwell. You can see her karma card is a 5 of Pentacles, which is a poverty card. It's a card of exile. It could be people not returning her calls. And a 10 of Cups is coming up, which would suggest an opening or a possibility of some kind of reprieve or something happens that seems to change the dynamic. They would be willing to negotiate because she has a lot of information. She's in a position to do some serious negotiating. That would be the best way for me to interpret this, because let's go in. You can see right here under Ghislaine Maxwell, the first card is a Page of Cups, which is a healing or an offer. So this is somebody who is trying to get out of a situation of exile. 10 of Cups, she thinks she can get out of this, and it's possibly due to giving of information. She thinks that she can negotiate with her lawyers a lesser sentence, or possibly even being able to leave the country in exchange for being a cooperating witness. That's the best way for me to interpret this. You see here, these cards, the happy family is the base of the matter, offering a deal, 4 of Wands. Right now, she's not talking. There's a 2 of Swords in the 4th house. Her partnerships, stressed out and grief. This is a person who's looking at their cards. Look at this. 5 of Cups is what you've lost, and look at what she's got in her back pocket. 2 Cups standing. So this is somebody who's lost a lot, stressed in the past, feels betrayed by people who were supposed to be there for her. This is almost like Donald Trump in the sense that people are not returning her calls anymore. She's in exile. She's been banned. No one wants to have anything to do with her. No one knows her. I don't know you. But refuses to talk, and 2 Cups in the back pocket. The hidden queen, right, who holds secrets, is the Queen of Pentacles. What's around her, the Star card, the hope and the fear that it will be over, the end, and the final outcome, the giving of information, also being shown mercy, 6 of Pentacles. The clarification, Ace of Wands, she's entering into an Ace of Wands period with a person in position of power, possibly a judge, or it could be Bill Barr, or the Justice, but it's somebody in a position of power. The hope and the fear, the information, the work, and then the final outcome, the High Priestess. She is the bearer of the information, the bearer of the light. She's going to make a deal. She's going to hand over a ton of information. And I think that in exchange, I don't know if she'll get off, but she's going to make a deal. This is somebody who many people are frightened. This is like a gag order. It has to do with her relationships, her partnerships. I think she's going to make a deal. I think she's going to spill. I think that people are very scared of her. I think that she knew this day might come, and I think that she took special pains to protect herself. And I also think that she has people in very high places that, you know, she could potentially ruin them. And they're going to try and make a deal with her. All right. Any questions about the throws so far? All right, somebody had asked if we could check on the future of Bill Barr and the AG. Who's going to be the next AG? Will it be Sally Yates come back? And the future of the AG position and Bill Barr. So we're going to do Bill Barr and the AG next. Oh, mystery achiever. Yes, maybe not. The future of the AG and Bill Barr. You know what's weird? Bill Barr always comes as the King of Cups because I think he's trying to maneuver this administration. He doesn't come as the King of Swords. He comes as like a negotiator, a mediator, probably to try and keep this guy out of jail. Bill Barr's karma, lugging the work, and there's COVID. COVID's really hard it's very hard for DC and for federal agencies to do work under COVID. This is like in his personal life, in Barr's personal life, the strain, a lot of people not coming in, a lot of people quitting, a lot of people with health concerns. It's created a lot of stress on the Justice Department from his perspective. He's very interested, again, overseas connections, 3 of Wands moving into the first house. The overseas communication, the ships coming in, the business of import and export, what's coming into the United States, what's going out of the United States. Drugs coming in, sometimes by boats, weapons, people, guns, et cetera, et cetera. This is this is like Coast Guard energy also. If you're looking at like 3 of Wands as a security, it's watching the waters, cross negotiation, dealing with conflicts or investigations, multiple people. See, he always comes as like a mediator. Knight of Cups, it's this water energy comes in and trying to negotiate between this administration, the policies of this AG and others. So whether we like him or not, that seems to be a huge part of what he's trying to do. There's something here about a transition. There's something here about Bill Barr getting his house in order because of this awareness that he's not going to be there for much longer. That's the best way for me to describe it. You can see the Hangman moving into 6th position with the Queen of Swords, which is the woman who puts her back to the past. So I think that on some level, Bill Barr knows that when he talks about I would leave if this president loses, he's going to leave. And he knows it. He doesn't want, to be honest with you, I don't think that this person wants much of a future with the AG. This is somebody who feels like they're wrapping things up. That's the best way for me to describe this energy, that they were trying to keep the ship afloat. And now this time, basically to keep the boat from sinking during this time of this administration, which now appears to be coming to an end. High Priestess, the bearer of the light, communication. This is like family communication and inheritance. The final outcome. This is the Queen of Wands, my way or the highway, my space. This is my space. Also justice. The archetype of Yehuda, who was the perfect judge. She held the staff of authority. It's the female aspects of Yehuda, which is the leader of the tribe. It also indicates strong female energy moving in. A fire sign female may be prominent in the future. It could be that a female, possibly fire sign, becomes the new AG. You can see a transition is definitely coming with these cards about the past, putting the past behind him, hanging it up, the truth coming out, or the light being born, female energy moving in, hopes and fears of celebration also. But that Queen of Cups is there. There's the Justice Department, the truth coming out, confusion about the legacy. So a little bit of confusion about what they were actually doing. But boy, they're going to look under the hood. They're going to look everywhere. When this guy is gone, and when Sally Yates or whoever comes in, possibly a fire sign female, it's going to be sanitized. That's the best way to describe it. This looks almost like they're going to sterilize the entire Justice Department. They're just going in with a fine-tooth comb. And it kind of goes back to what Linda G had said, this idea that they could start reversing things. But it's a ton of work. You can see that that outcome being not only just the strong leader coming in female, but boy, they're under the microscope, aren't they? Wow, what a reading. No, Barr is leaving. He knows he's leaving. He's fixing things up at the Justice Department because he has a strong feeling that his time there is limited. The truth is coming out that he protected this president as long as he could and tried to stabilize this administration as best as he could from his perspective. but now he has to assume that that time is coming to an end. It might continue, but he has to assume it's coming to an end. And so for that reason, he's focusing on getting his house in order. And yeah, that's what I see. All right. So Biden and the Ukraine. Biden and the Ukraine. Is anything going on with that? Will he be able to stabilize the Ukraine? Will Russia take over the Ukraine? We'll look at the Ukraine. Sterilizing. Yeah, right, pure water. All right, this is our policy about the Ukraine under a Biden administration if Biden gets in. Yeesh. It's a mess in the Ukraine. If you go into this energy from Biden's perspective, it's so bad in the Ukraine that he does not want to send U.S. troops. He doesn't want to increase U.S. presence in the Ukraine, but they're so concerned that the security has fallen apart in the Ukraine that it's really become a major issue from his perspective. It's very dangerous. It's not stable. It's going to be very, very difficult to stabilize the Ukraine because of what's going on there. You can see here the base card is the Tower and the Karma card. So it's it feels like a very scary situation in the Ukraine. It does not feel stable. It feels like the Russians, they sent in their business first. We did a remote on that. They sent in the mafia, the business first. They also sent people. They sent business in first. But the point is that it's going to be very hard to get the Russians out of the Ukraine with cards like this. He's definitely going to try, and it's a major issue. You can see death or transformation over Russia in the Ukraine. A strong position here for Biden. It's a mess. The first thing that they're looking at is money flow in and out of the Ukraine, American money, American business, and how American business people were engaged in questionable money ties in this area. You can see the harvesting of the money, the holding of the money coming in and out, waiting for the money to come in and out. It's the morals and ethics of the business world and what we can control. It goes back to getting our houses in order. What we can control as America is what our business people do overseas, and that is the first order of business as far as Biden is concerned in terms of our relationship with Ukraine. How have we been profiting off of Russia's involvement in the Ukraine? That's the best way for me to interpret this. The ethos of the nation, the Constitution, the final outcome. Justice will be served. The justice card comes in. Basically, what Biden is saying here in this remote is that Putin will not be able to take over the Ukraine without the help of Western business persons, and that is the first order of business would be to go after those ties. It's the Igor Frumans and the Donald Trumps and everybody else that's making a penny off of these kinds of relationships with Russia and possibly exposing those relationships. All right, very interesting. So people had asked me to look at Rod Rosenstein. Rod Rosenstein limited the investigation. Some people were critical of that. I did a remote view on Rod Rosenstein, and the feeling I got from him was that if he had expanded it to look at Trump or to go after Trump, it would have become a political investigation, and he was not supposed to be political. The function of the investigation was to look at Russian interference. Everything else was passed on to the FBI and broken into different investigations. So when I did a remote on that, Mueller had documents and they were assigned to known investigations or known people that oversaw certain types of investigations, and they were compartmentalized and sent off. So there was an investigation on the, there's three known investigations just on stealing money from the inauguration. So that's one separate FBI investigation. Destroying the documents that Eric Trump and Ivanka Trump's signatures. Remember, we did a remote on that. And Michael Cohen had said in the remote that Ivanka Trump needed to save herself and cooperate with the feds because they got everything, including the signatures. So those were the documents. So now it's coming out, and Cohen was part of the inauguration committee. It's interesting to see how the remotes are kind of, the blanks are getting filled up now, and that's, I think that's what's going on. But let's look at Rod Rosenstein and see about his future, and because people don't like him very much right now, but I always felt like he was trying to be a straight arrow and kind of in the middle of a bad situation. But this is a throw on Rod Rosenstein and Trump. It's interesting that Barr is starting to give us more information. He didn't give us information for 4 years, almost 3 years, or however long he's been there. Rod Rosenstein. I think he wants a peaceful transition of power. I think that he was between a rock and a hard place. I think that he had to be like, he's using the archetype of Yehuda. He had to be without bias or any emotional attachment. That it couldn't look like it was a partisan, it couldn't be partisan, but obviously if they found something about Trump's business, like in the case of the Cohen raid, it was dealt with, but it couldn't be part of the actual Mueller report. And this goes back to what I had said, that the Mueller investigation, it was not supposed to be about, it wasn't the main investigation. I think, it's interesting. Robert Mueller always gets his man. The FBI always gets his man. Yeah, they do. And that's precisely what they've done. They've arrested everybody. They've charged just about everybody. They've also worked with intelligence agencies outside the United States, coordinated arrest with Homeland Security, et cetera. So a lot of people are getting arrested. A lot of Trump's associates are getting arrested. But Rosenstein's cards, he presents as moral. He does not present as corrupted. You can see here the King of Wands, judicious, Two of Cups, trying to negotiate things fairly. The Fool, he perceives of himself as having been somewhat naive or foolish. Justice will prevail. An Ace of Swords is a victory card after tears. It's also the laurel wreath. I always think of like Caesar when I see this card, because it's got like a Caesar crown and the laurel, which was, I guess, what Caesar wore in his hair, but on his head. But gets his wish regarding victory, a new contract. This is kind of a feeling like he was pressured by both sides to do something, and instead he was just committed to letting justice take its course. He had strife. He was in the middle of a situation he didn't want to be in. He pulled double aces, hopes and fears, infidelity, alliances, right? Cheating. the final outcome, he made a solid judgment. The clarification. Yeah, it looks like he handed information, the treasure trove, to somebody else. This might be, well, I don't think this is Mueller. It looks like there was information that he shared, or information that was shared by some type of an investigation. And inevitably, it's all, you know what it looks like? It looks like they had a lot of information. They organized it. They continued on with certain types of investigations, and then they are now wrapping it up over the next 2 to 3 weeks, long after Rosenstein is gone, because the Knight of Swords moving in as the final outcome after a judgment leads me to think that this guy was doing things on the side that Trump doesn't know about, that justice was continuing on. It was simply discreet. It was channeled to other investigations. And the outcome in the coming weeks, as Trump figures this out, as more stuff comes out, is going to be, Trump was lulled into a false sense of security and believed that many of these investigations had ended, but they did not end. That's the best way for me to interpret this. Thank you, Christopher. That's very kind of you. Wow. It's very hard to look at, to have a job like that and just be objective and not just go immediately into your emotional reaction. I think it would be very hard to be in doing the kind of work that these people are doing. Thank you, Nancy. That's very kind of you. All right. Still time for more blitzes. Oh, the future of Kamala, right? Kamala? Now, I've heard Kamala and I've heard Kamala. But Joe Biden says Kamala. I heard him say it, Kamala. Which I thought was very nice. You want to know if she's going to be president right away. There are a lot of patriots working in D.C. They really love this country, and that's why they got into politics. And it's not because they're horrible, terrible people. And it's because they really care. And they're in the military. Many of them have lost fellow soldiers. Thank you, Anna. So trust that there are a lot of patriots and people that love this country that are fighting the good fight. Okay, Kamala Harris. Future of Kamala Harris. If she runs again, she would probably be pressured to pick someone, if she runs in 2024, she's probably going to pick someone like Julian Castro. Or somebody, possibly a Latino VP, possibly Cuban, just because the first thing I think about when I go into this energy is Florida. And strengthening the Latino vote in Florida. So that's interesting. Four of Swords, calm energy, but look what she's moving into, the King of Wands, the leader of the tribe. That is her karma. That is what she's going through. The Page of Cups, attempting to heal a situation or rift that's causing conflict in the environment, possibly defending of the land. So there's this. So she comes from a place of trying to heal, but it's interesting. She's also having this reaction where she's being attacked. Very interesting. This is the AG stuff that I keep seeing with her. This monitoring what's coming in and what's going out. The money that was. She's strong. She doesn't let people's stuff get to her. It's like water off a duck's back. She just keeps doing her job. Look at that, 2 of Swords in the 3rd house. No one's breaking this woman's heart. She's not a wallflower. Once people realize she's not leaving, that she's quite strong, and that her feathers cannot be ruffled, she will be entering into a period of the 6 of Cups, which is that people will begin respecting her, coming to her with their stuff. You can see here a nice bouquet coming, attempting to work with her, new alliances. Works very well with Biden. Look at that. Beautiful 2 of Cups with a contract. She had to actually sign legal documents when she took on this position, which I thought was really cool to actually see that in the remote. The hopes and fears that justice will be served. A lot of conflict. Her administration, she probably is going to be the president, is trying to keep people from hurting one another. It has to do with money, flim-flam man energy, financial corruption, arguing, but also a great exchange of ideas. The future of the Justice Department is something she's very concerned about. You can see the moon over the justice. Flim-flam or moving coin, conflicts with exchange of ideas. It's going to be very interesting to see how she takes on these challenges going forward. I would be very surprised if she didn't become the president with those types of cards, particularly with a karma card of being the head of the tribe, Yehuda. That's a pretty strong karma card. All right, so we're going to go ahead and close with the last question I got. I got a lot of questions, but let's go, maybe we'll go a little bit over. I want to check to see when the vaccine is going to be available. I see October that there's going to be trials of a vaccine. I can't say it's the United States, so it's probably going to be either Europe or Australia. We're going to start seeing limited vaccine next month and then possibly in November. Whether or not the United States is going to be able to bring it in from another country, that's controversial. All right, this next one is on the picture of COVID, the vaccine. The hour goes fast. I know, Debbie, I'm sorry. And will the vaccine be effective? Oh, that's a good question. I have a family member with COVID right now. It's very scary. Decisions that have been made up to this point have been pretty disastrous. You can see the base card. Here's the COVID card that we're using. Disrupted wind energy, or Wei Qi in Chinese medicine, our ability to, our defense system against wind aggravation. That's why I picked that as my COVID card. You can see a nice star card moving in as the summary of the reading. Right now, decisions were made, a judgment that led to the tower. So unfortunately, things are continuing to go from bad to worse. Exhausted employees, exhausted people in healthcare, continued strain, many people quitting, fighting, economic challenges. Its time is coming to an end, though. You can see a nice wheel of fortune moving in. I think that there's also going to be free or a lot of available vaccination. There's going to be funding for this, so people won't have to pay for it. With a 6 of Pentacles moving in into the 4th house, past placement, the Empress card, and a 10 of Pentacles. So yeah, I think that people are very close to getting a vaccine. You can see the Wisdom card, or the Empress card is abundance, fertility, creative ideas, and then the outcome is the Legacy card with a assistance or service card as well. The opening of the eyes, yeah, absolutely. Looks like they already have the vaccine also, because this is my Indian summer card, so that's now. So they've already tested it, and now it's about whether limited distribution of a vaccine. There could be red tape. Look at that. The business model. It's not I'm not worried about corruption with these cards. I'm worried about an effective vaccine from another country being blocked for financial reasons, which can sometimes happen. Things will get blocked. Then the FDA wants to do their own studies. That'll put a vaccine from another, potentially on hold for a while, putting ourselves in knots, red tape. That's what we're going to have to get through if we want to have the vaccine early rather than later, because it looks like it's going to be available outside the United States fairly soon. And that's why people are getting mixed messages, and that's why people are confused, because some countries are distributing the vaccine early, like in a month time. So there you go. Is it effective? Yes. There's several countries that have, there's several ways you can do a vaccine. There's several ways that people can do a vaccine. One way is the way the Australians are working on a vaccine, a particular way. People are looking at creating antibodies to the COVID, antibodies to the actual RNA. They're looking at building the immune system. So there's different ways that people are targeting. But the vaccine, the research I've seen from the vaccines that are being developed in Australia and in England, they appear to be safe, and people seem to be mounting an immune response. And in Israel, they're also doing, I believe they're already at phase 2, phase 3. The United States is not going to be ready, though. I don't think until possibly February or spring. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Ona Tarot. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by and being supportive of this channel. We're 1,000 people strong. Be sure and share, like, subscribe. Be sure and also press the bell notification. I got to check and see why some people are not receiving their notifications. So before we close, how's everybody doing? What's everybody grateful for? Does everybody like the new setup? Oh, thank you, Larry. Girl, you're very kind. And thank you for being a moderator extraordinaire. And same for Ona Tarot. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Anybody want to share gratitude? Oh, thank you for this compliment about the setup. Keisha Harris in the house. Hello, hello. Thank you for moderating. Oh, thank you. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for this community. I'm grateful for your good hearts, your kindness. I'm grateful for the fact that this is a community where we're constantly examining ourselves. We're looking at our shadows. We're a fearless community. And we are always trying to be honest and help one another. And I think that those are all things that are commendable. So thank you, love and light to everyone. If you're still trying to get in for a reading, you can go to togowithwhimsy.com. If you need to see me as a doctor, I am available for telemedicine appointments. You can go to drwhimsy.com, and that sends you to a link to my virtual office. Peace, light to everyone, and we will see you next week at 11 a.m. on Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your Labor Day weekend. Bye, everyone.